Ladies and gentlemen, it is time. Shockman has agreed to an interview and I'm all for it. Let's have a look. So we are checking out channel Triggernometry. 1.59 million subscribers 7 days ago. And as we read, Hasan Piker is a Turkish-American Twitch streamer, political commentator, and influencer. Okay, I know who Hasan Piker is. You could have just said Shockman, we all know. Apparently, they had him over, and Triggernometry is proudly independent. Thanks for the sponsors. Fantastic. Oh, yeah, they recommend Brad. Brad is a good guy. I like Brad. I do like Brad. You guys know Brad, right? All right, so Piker. Let's have a look a little bit. So what have we got here? So we got the introduction. We can check just the beginning of the introduction, but I'm really more interested into the meat and bones. And also it's very long, so I'll have to consider that. Introduction. What are progressive values? Yeah, we'll see what he says about that. Is there a country that has, I think that's the one where they ask if there is a country that has pulled off socialism in a way he likes. He's going to say China. Mass immigration. Whoa. Are Muslims in the UK trying to, I think, do the Sharia law was the question. So I'm so looking forward that we're definitely going to check this one out. Some gaslighting. Would you like communism? Communism leads to authoritarianism. I mean, yeah. At least that's what we have seen historically. The assassination of Charlie Kirk, we are checking that one out. Oh my gosh, I've got no problem with communism as Hasan Piker. That's just how it starts.
Nice to be here, guys.
Why the big sigh?
Italy's Mussolini and Adolf Hitler's Nazi Germany were ruthless fascist forms of governance. My fear is that is where capitalism inevitably leads. There's too much instability, there's too much chaos. We need to restore order.
Is there a country that's done socialism the way that you like?
I would say China is probably the closest, I would say, to an example that we should follow.
Like communism in America?
I think that communism would be most likely an international thing. It'd be like the Star Trek universe.
You think the Reform Party is
I think
fascist?
Reform Party, as it stands currently, is a nascent fascist parliamentary group that hasn't reached its full potential yet.
Holy moly, that introduction alone. I love it. How he's like Mussolini in Italy and Uncle Austrian Painter in Germany. Oh, they were horrible. They did that. But he never mentioned Stalin, of course. No, that one was like flowers everywhere. This is gonna be good. Also, Dungeon of Democracy. Is that supposed to be a funny shirt?
Relax. This isn't an ad. If you're not a fan of ads but love Triggernometry, join the thousands of Triggernometry members who get extended interviews, no ads, early access, and the ability to submit questions for upcoming guests.
Let's go.
Sign up now at triggerpod.co.uk or click the link in the description of this episode.
Sounds good.
Hasan Piker, welcome to Triggernometry.
Welcome.
Nice to be here, guys.
Why the big sigh?
We'll see. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
I'm getting cooked right now.
Yeah.
For those of you at home watching, and this has got to be extra weird for you guys because you're British, and this is what the sun looks like normally.
Yeah. No, it's nice to know.
Yeah.
When he said I'm getting cooked, I thought he meant for his views, to be honest. But it's not like he's ever gonna admit that. Let's go.
Enjoying it. I'm sorry about the sun. This is not deliberate. We're not trying to cook you, literally. But welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about you. Like, you obviously have got a massive Twitch channel. You're very successful streaming. Twitch is a gaming platform, but you talk on there, and that's what people follow you for. How did you get there? What's been your journey through life?
You know what I've just realized before we listen to his wonderful explanation? I just realized this, guys. I don't know if you noticed. Hasan Piker is the equivalent of the bro science guy at the gym that explains science to you, but for politics. He's the bro politics. That's why it worked so well on Twitch, of all places.
I started my professional media career, I guess, as a nepotism recipient at my uncle's 26-person YouTube startup media network.
His uncle meaning the one who likes horses.
I feel like calling it a media network is interesting because, like, at that time, at that point, it was smaller than like a mid-tier podcast, you know? But I started there because I just wanted to not live in New Jersey. I wanted to live in LA. And that's where the Young Turks headquarters were. And I, much like virtually all of my peers, came out of college with a double major, great marks.
Triple major.
And no job prospects whatsoever.
So, I'm sure you are enjoying this video very much. Here's the thing though, whenever I work on my channels, I have to sit in front of my desk for 10 hours in a row. I mean, I do stretch out, but yeah, that's a reality of being a content creator. And that is one of the reasons why the quality of the chair that you use is the one piece of furniture you really want to invest a little more and not get something cheap and bad quality. And that doesn't only apply to content creators, but also like gamers and all sorts of like office jobs, which is why I want to say thank you to the amazing sponsor of this video, FlexiSpot. So FlexiSpot has been fantastic. They sent me this. It's an entire box. Look at this. This is the C7 Max, a fantastic model. All right, let's build this thing. So as I was explaining, as a creator, I spend a lot of time at my desk, and unfortunately ignoring a good quality chair as a good investment leads to back pain, discomfort, and more. But let me tell you, when I sit in the wrong chair for too long, you could tell. And I have tried several chairs and could never really find one fit for the job. Until now, that is. The C7 Max from FlexiSpot is comfortable, sturdy, reliable, and built to last. Featuring a latex seat cushion with memory foam to ensure softness and support, suitable for 12 hours seating comfortably. 12 hours seating comfortably, it's freaking magic, guys. Magic. It's what you need, you. Now, why choose the C7 Max? Well, when thinking of a good reliable chair, we often focus on the back, but the neck is as important when it comes to your posture. And as you can see, the headrest can be tilted to the ideal angle for working. Alright, so we talked about the back, we talked about the neck. Oh, we are not done. Lumbar support is another feature of this chair. The lumbar support is designed differently from traditional ones that only support the lumbar region. By focusing on sacrum support, it automatically supports both the lumbar and sacrum, making it more ergonomic. On top of all this, you can also adjust the armrests. So really, using this chair has been fantastic for me. It's become my favorite chair. I'm so glad that they sent it, not only because, of course, they're sponsors of this channel, but I do feel lucky and privileged that not only I could get the chair, but now my life is just so much better because of it. Because that's a necessity for me, in fact, a requirement, to be able to recommend it to you. I need to use it. I need to be happy with it. What I do, I move it around. So like if I plan on spending a lot of time on my 1998 Windows computer, I just move the chair over there. What's the point of having so many chairs now? I could have just invested in 2 of these. Think about it. If this sounds good to you, you should absolutely click the link in the description and use my code Metatron to get the best price right now. And if you have a limited budget, you can also check their C5 chair, which is also good build quality with basic functions for adjustment as well. And you get a 30-day return policy for a risk-free trial and 10-year warranty with direct replacement for damaged part. A massive thanks to FlexiSpot for sponsoring my video.
So I was like, all right, I'll just start off my journey here. And it'll allow me to be in LA where I want to be, right?
Wonderful.
And slowly but surely,
I'd like to underline LA when he wants to be in his $3 million estate. Just putting it out there, shocking dogs. So, you know, I'm not particularly interested in roasting. I will continue to do this, and in fact, I'm enjoying it very much. But I think I'm gonna stop roasting him on his own career, which we all know, you know, the champagne and whatnot. So he loves freedom, champagne, and money. All 3 things are incompatible with communism. Now, there is a section about progressive values. It's rather large. I do want to see the mass migration one, because I do have a thing. I do have a pretty strong ideas when it comes to mass immigration, particularly the illegal kind. So let's have a look.
and
See, the reason a lot of them will say that, though, is it's not so much about that we're not like China in terms of building high-speed rail, although that is a big issue in the UK.
Yes.
I agree with you.
Yep.
The main reason is they feel like they've been let down by mass immigration that's eroding the values of their country.
Yes.
And of course, you know, this is where I think people on the right are very blind to this issue that we already raised, which is wealth inequality and opportunity. Right?
I'm sure there are some people who feel that way, of course, but
well, think about this, Hasan.
but
Right?
even
Hold on,
with
let me just finish the point.
go ahead.
Like, stereotypically speaking, is it left of center people or right of center people that are going to go and fight for their country? Typically, it's going to be right of center people because of the mindset that they have.
Like patriotism, I think he's going for. He disagrees. I understand his point of view. I mean, of course, there are plenty of people in the armed forces who are left of center. With that being said, I think he's talking about patriotism, probably how he could have worded it.
Right?
I think when push comes to shove, everybody fights for their country because that's why you have to have a draft.
In a war. But what we're talking about in this situation is, will you go and serve in armed forces? That is going to be a more right-leaning perspective. And those people, we probably, fair to say, know the UK pretty well. Those people are concerned about the national identity of their country. It's like, why would I fight for a country that doesn't feel like my country?
I mean, that's a good point. Now that he fully fleshed it out, this is the first time I watched them, by the way, I haven't got a clue. But I'm just saying that was a good point, because at the end of the day, I do notice that there are a lot of people, maybe in the progressive, I'm not sure about liberals, to be honest, but when it comes to the progressives, at least, they freaking hate America. They hate America, they hate the West, they hate themselves, they hate their own skin when they're white. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if that's going to breed people who are going to be like, yeah, now I want to enlist to defend my own country. So I do understand where he's coming from. You'll have to explain to me if there is one specific subsection of the left where you're like, oh, no, that only applies to X and not Y. Be more than happy for you to correct me. But I see where he's going with that. Looking forward to his rebuttal.
The issue for them.
This is where the big point of division comes for someone like myself.
Right.
You're Venezuelan originally. Your family came from Venezuela. Your family came from the USSR.
Legally.
You guys are the most British people I've ever encountered.
I have a very British face.
Yes.
You are correct.
Yeah, exactly. You're British to the bone.
Yeah.
Right.
And yet your families also came from countries that were somewhat far away from England, right?
Yeah.
And I'm Turkish. I grew up in Turkey. My whole family lives in Turkey still, with some exceptions. And I would say I'm pretty assimilated.
For instance, his mother. Did he say he's pretty assimilated? Well, I'm not sure, man. You want to shoot people. That's not very American for their speech. So we'll have to readdress that one later. Maybe pencil it in. Let's put a pin on that. When it comes to his family, by the way, the one in Turkey, do remember that he said that he grew up in poverty and struggling, but then at a distance of, I don't remember how long, but on a separate live stream, he also said that he grew up affluent. And then, so I looked it up because I'm like, it's either one or the other, right? Because you can't have the two statements are mutually exclusive. You either grew up in poverty, struggling to reach the end of the freaking month, or you grew up affluent, meaning that you were so rich you never have to think about anything. But he stated both. So considering the fact that he does lie at a compulsory level, then I decided to check in myself. And yes, this family that he's talking about, dad is employed for a multi-billion company. He himself said that his mother is a fantastic way of a strong, independent feminist woman who invests, like she controls I don't know how many estates. So yeah, that family in Turkey, just so we're clear.
To American culture. I grew up being fascinated by American culture. I grew up consuming American pop culture, as do many people all around the world.
Yeah.
And what I always find interesting is when people
did not work, did it?
People focus on the newcomers to say that this is actually destroying the social fabric or social cohesion.
No, it's only the ones that come here and hate us, to be honest, and enter illegally. People who come here, like me, who come through the legal channels, love America, respect it, believe in the Constitution, believe in freedom, appreciates the freedoms that I have, same freedoms that you are using, by the way, to counter the government, these freedoms you wouldn't have if it was another country, like, for instance, the USSR, that you like so much. But yeah, no, the people like, absolutely, it's only the people that come here. As I always say, guys, if you hate the West, stay out of the West. It's actually quite simple as a concept, I believe. Would he be the black sheep of his family? I don't know, maybe brown, white. But he's white in China, by the way. That's what he said. He said himself, he's not white in America, but when he went to China, he said he was white. So that's interesting how he changes color, apparently. He changes ethnicity. You know, when we say that ethnic makeup and phenotypic traits are immutable characteristics of an individual, and that's why we usually shouldn't use those against people. Well, for him, they're mutable. For Hasan Piker is the only human being, ladies and gentlemen, whose immutable characteristics, such as phenotypic traits and genetic makeup, in fact, are mutable. So there is that.
Not realizing that there are a ton, of polls conducted on this stuff. I can just speak for America, especially, where by the second generation, assimilation is almost complete, and by the third one, it's like virtually impossible to distinguish in terms of performance, educational output, and job performance in general. It's just like everyone becomes American.
That's not true in the UK, though, unfortunately. So if you look at, for example, Islamist radicalization, second and third generation Muslims are much more radical than first generation.
Yeah.
So we're not, that's the issue that a lot of people in Britain are concerned about, is not everyone's assimilating the way that the three of us have done.
So
that is very interesting, actually. So he literally gave them, this guy's good, by the way. This guy just he let him talk, and he literally let him self-destruct. Here's the thing, though. I'll see how he responds, but he's now praising assimilation. Hold on a minute. Assimilation is what the right wing pushes. Of course, there are some elements in the right that are like all immigrants out of here, me included, by the way. I get it. I'm not discussing those. But I'm saying, generally speaking, the right wing says, or conservative thinking is, come here, assimilate, learn the language, learn the culture, accept the, work hard, pay your taxes, give no trouble, respect the law, respect the country, respect the people in this country. That's assimilation. So now he's using assimilation as an example of a good immigrant, but hold on a minute, you're basically presenting a right-wing point at this, or a centrist point, perhaps. This guy is really good, I'll have to, for what I could see right now. It's funny, because, the problem is we complain about the people that come here hating us and maintain the hatred.
Here's the interesting point about that. Well, two things I want to address.
Please.
First, like I said, people assimilate. And they become a part of the
no problems with that.
Normal forces of society.
Absolutely.
They become a part of the culture, or they bring some aspect of their culture into British culture. They change the cuisine, and people seemingly enjoy it, even if
Chicken tikka masala.
they also simultaneously go attend an EDL rally and then get a little quick curry afterwards, or a little kebab on the side. But beyond that, the reason why people are angry is always going to be because the trains are not running on time, because the NHS is improperly managed due to underfunding. That's what I believe. I think it's always an issue of underfunding, where they're not getting the same services that they once used to, and also things are becoming more and more costly. So in that anger, it's much easier for them to be guided by the right wing forces to turn around and say, you're angry and you're right to be angry. And the reason why you're angry, the reason why all of these things are happening, is because we are importing all of these random strangers into the country who don't speak your language,
Based. Yeah. I agree with that take that he disagrees with when it comes to the illegals.
We're scared by. And that, I think, causes division, and it causes friction that makes it harder for people to integrate. And that is part of the reason why I think, especially in a place like the UK, you see a little bit more of this resilience towards full-blown integration into society.
He will be one of the major spearheads for hate everything American, hate America, hate capitalism, hate the free market, including the free market of ideas, hate the free speech, hate this, hate that, hate the country, hate the president, hate the system, hate the money, hate everything about America. And then he's like, oh, but it's the right wing's fault if people don't want to integrate. Integrate on what? You literally are telling people to hate it. And again, I'm not saying that there aren't faults on the right wing. So absolutely, yes. I've been debunking both for years, but it's not a both sides thing. And regardless, right now, I'm interested in listening to these two gentlemen. Maybe it's my bias, guys. I don't know. But so far, the guy on the right, but this guy too, but this guy, Constantine's been speaking facts. Shockman, however.
I also think as well, Hasan, if we're being honest, it's also because we have had such huge amounts of immigration come into the country that people understandably go, this pace of change is too much. And you have to think, let's go back to 2016, which was the Brexit referendum. Now, Brexit was about many things, but really it was about people wanting immigration to be lowered. And that was nigh on 10 years ago. Immigration hasn't been lowered. In fact, it's been ratcheted up. So people are, people voted.
I wonder what's funny about that, by the way.
To lower immigration. And for instance, I voted Remain. People voted Brexit. I'm like, well, that's democracy. We get on. We're going to make the best of it.
Right.
I do believe that when you ignore people's wishes at the ballot box and people explicitly vote for something and you ignore them for the best part of a decade, that does generate a lot of anger, and understandably so.
Together with the raping of children.
Yeah, I think in that same time frame, if there was enough appetite by the government to address the financial harm that people were experiencing, the economic struggles that people were experiencing, there would still be a lot of people who say, I don't want a brown person, I don't want a black person around in my neighborhood. But ultimately, those numbers would be far smaller. And that's what I always go back to. I'm a leftist. I believe in,
yes, you are.
in economic improvements. And I believe that a lot of the reactionary forces actually take advantage of that instability, the economic volatility that exists, in an effort to shift the attention away to people who have the same exact interests as you and I do. Because ultimately, I don't believe that anyone is coming into the United States of America or the UK, as a matter of fact, because they want to bring about a Salafist-style Islamic caliphate.
Oh, you gotta be joking. Oh, my God. Wait, I need to prepare for this. He's gotta destroy him. Guys, did you see what happened? You know what he did? I told you, this is bro politics. Categorical statement, ladies and gentlemen. He's gonna be annihilated. Now, you never make categorical statements. That's something you learn in history already. Never mind in politics and political discourse. There is absolutely no one who's coming into the UK and America, apart from the fact that the UK is already basically on its way to becoming the United Caliphate regardless, but whatever. Man, we can find a million interviews with Muslim with machetes screaming, saying we're going to take you out, we're going to replace your numbers because we have 15 children each, and you guys, white people, don't even breathe. Like, it's everywhere. Oh, I'm so looking forward to see, but please destroy, please catch on to it. Please, I'm sure they do. If I do, these guys are pros. 100% they're going to do it.
I know you won't agree with me on
It's
this.
not about whether I agree, it's about whether the facts agree with you.
I don't think that's the case.
Hold on.
I think
Well,
ultimately,
let me just give you some facts then.
Please.
If that, we have a terrorist attack on a monthly basis by an Islamist, effectively. We just had 2 in the space of the last month as we're reporting this. 33%, I think, of British Muslims want Sharia law in Britain.
Okay, let me pause this. They got, they were prepared. Sharia law, 33% of all, which of course, then again, we are not going to do the same. We're not going to make the same mistake, right? We're not going to say all Muslim immigrants or all Muslim residents want Sharia law. But 33%, even though it's not even majority, it's a massive chunk. So 33%, dear Hasan Piker, is not no one, is it? 33% want Sharia law? Yeah, what happens when you vote someone like that in power? More than half of British Muslims want to make it illegal to show a picture of the Prophet Muhammad, compared to just 16% of the wider public. Now, of course, I haven't vetted these numbers myself. Sounds very reasonable, but we'll have to see. See, the problem with Hasan Piker, though, is that this specific 33% of Muslims tend to be very outward about it.
Like, according to polls, more than half want to ban...
I haven't seen these polls.
Well, we can put them in for people to see. More than half want to ban homosexuality, right? So when you say people aren't coming in to introduce an Islamist stuff, well, some of them want to, if they're in a position to do so. We have...
Annihilated. You see? When someone says no one, you say some, and you already win. I told you it was bro.
5 MPs, some of them want to, if they're in a position to do so. We have 5 MPs who are effectively elected on a sectarian ticket, like as in, we are Muslims, vote for us because you're a Muslim.
Who would you say those MPs are?
The 5 independent MPs, they're called the Gaza MPs, or whatever way you want to call them. Right?
Are you talking about like Zara Sultana?
I don't know if she's one of them. I think one of them is called Adnan Hussein. There's 5 of them. We can look them up. We can put them in for people to see.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it should be said that the overwhelming majority of British Muslims don't want Sharia law.
Of course.
But if 33% of them do, you can see why a lot of people who don't want Sharia law might be concerned about that, right?
Of course.
Sure. I don't.
I love the sure. I love the. I can't even say it the way he said it. Sure. Did I do it right? Probably not. I suck at doing accents like that. Sure.
I don't know what. I haven't seen these polls, and I also don't know what British Muslims or the 33% that are saying they want Sharia law, like what they're talking about.
Yes, you do. Isn't he a Muslim? Of course you know what Sharia law is. Oh, that's insane.
You want smart, fearless commentary on the craziest things happening in media, politics, and online culture? You'll love the Brad versus Everyone podcast.
He's
hosted
good.
by Brad Palumbo, an independent journalist who calls it like it is.
Since he calls it like it is, then I will call it how it is. His surname is Italian and it's pronounced Palumbo. Palumbo. I refuse to pronounce it in any other way.
The podcast covers viral madness from across the political and cultural spectrum, and no one's safe. He goes after Gen Z TikTok scammers and far-right grifters. He'll take apart progressive media darlings and...
Yeah, he's very centrist. Clearly right, since we're talking about Brad, right? Brad is like a centrist, center-right guy, for those who don't know. Really good. I like him a lot.
MAGA influencers. All from a place of sharp moderation, not blind loyalty.
Yeah.
Think of it like Triggernometry's younger American cousin. Same instinct for cutting through the noise, same appetite for the stories everyone else is too scared or too biased to cover. If you like your commentary honest, sharp, and entirely uncancelable, find Brad versus Everyone on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
I agree with him.
The counterexample always is, I mean, there's plenty of right-wing forces in the country that also want to ban homosexuality.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's, I'm just going to say it, guys. I'm just going to say it because, I mean, with people like Hasan, it's just a matter of how good a point sounds, not the veracity thereof. I'm just going to say it. Take a pool of 1 million Christian immigrants and take a pool of 1 million Muslim immigrants. Within those percentages, how many do you think are going to be more towards the idea of we want a liberal democracy or we want a, whatever, Republican constitutional republic? And how many of those are going to want a theocratic authoritarian system? Likewise, how many of those do you think are going to say, on the basis of my personal faith, I want to use the power of the government to ban gay marriage? The percentages are not going to be the same. And that's a fact. So it's pointless that he's now going to say, let's see, I don't want to speak too much. I want to let them speak.
And
No.
Oh, I mean, or
that was a good no.
Homosexuality. Or trans people in general, right?
No one wants to ban trans people in Britain.
How do you ban trans people? Sorry for the frequent stopping, but I have to say this. How do you ban them? I'm not quite sure how you ban. Like I can see how people can politically ban homosexual marriage, same-sex marriage. How do you ban trans people? I mean, the only thing you can politically ban is for minors or children to have access to hormone treatment and surgery. That I'm very strongly in favor of, the banning of such treatments for minors. But when it comes to adults...
Okay, well, that's not what I have seen so far, but maybe I'm wrong on this.
What do you mean?
But I feel like there's a lot of this is a point of contention for you guys as well. But it's like when you want to ban trans people altogether, when you want to remove access to medication for trans people to transition and conform their own gender identity. You don't start off by saying we want to altogether ban trans people. You start off by trying to find the most successful approach that the broadest majority of the masses would be in tune with, would be in agreement with, and then you slowly but surely expand on it.
Wouldn't that be like me saying, well, you say you want socialism, but actually you're a communist because you just want to edge your way towards communism step by step?
It is the same thing.
That seems like an unfair way of looking at it.
No, my retort to that would be that while I don't call myself a communist, I don't have an issue with an end goal of communism. I don't think it's like I just think that it's probably not likely to happen, a stateless, moneyless, borderless society. But moving towards that end goal, I don't have any.
Why does he say borderless society, do you think the USSR didn't have borders? And again, I understand that the USSR didn't specifically manifest communism because, although then again, I mean, in thought, they were communists, but in practice, they were socialists. We get that. But why do you think communism is about borderless? That thing I don't understand. Is there something from the Karl Marx writings that I'm misremembering? Because I know the economic section, but I'm a little confused with the borderless idea.
You'd like communism in America?
I think that communism would be most likely an international thing. It'd be like the Star Trek universe. And it feels, especially at this point, it feels far too utopian to achieve. So while I think that the concept in and of itself is not one that I disagree with, and I don't think you would either, don't you?
I would.
You think it would be nicer?
I grew up in a communist country. I very strongly disagree with the concept of communism.
The USSR was, as you know as well, trying to implement communism. They never actually were able to successfully implement communism.
How do you mean?
Well, it wasn't a borderless, moneyless, classless society. Right?
That was
it
never
would be
the goal of communism. It was never to be a borderless, moneyless.
That's what I was saying.
Society.
No, that is what communism is.
Well, that's not how the communists in Russia defined it.
Well,
there was a big debate within communism quite early on, which was about, are we pursuing a global state of communism?
Frost versus Stalin.
I'm
very familiar.
Right, but for our audience, this might be worth explaining.
Yeah.
Some of them they basically recognized the only way you might ever get to a communist society is if everyone in the world gets it. Otherwise, there will always be a capitalist system to which people would be keen to defect. Or, this is the Stalin option that they ended up going for, is you pursue communism within the realm of one country. And in order to do that, they took the wealth away from people who had it. They tried to distribute it to everybody else. They tried to create a state of equality, uplift the poor, as you were talking about. And actually, if you take those measures alone, they were very successful at it. Mm-hmm. The only problem is they ended up putting millions of people in camps in order to do that, creating a tyrannical regime with a secret police that murdered people. And that is the reason communism, in my opinion, doesn't work, is because in order to achieve that goal of equality, and basically you're making everybody equally poor as the end result, you actually have to use a lot of force, right? So that was communism, what we had in the USSR.
Well,
yeah, that's what I say too. At the end of the day, they were communists, even if they didn't achieve everything in the same way that the theory was presenting. But you could say the same about the Austrian painter and the fan club in Germany at that point. They also said a lot of stuff, and they didn't actually do everything. So does that mean that then Nazism doesn't exist, or it was never an actual National Socialist country? You can reuse the same thing.
That the end goal was never successfully achieved in the USSR in terms of establishing what I'm talking about, though. And that's why I'm saying it's important to understand and recognize the failures of this implementation in the aftermath of a socialist revolution, and choose not to repeat those mistakes.
So how would you do it differently?
Well, that's the reason why I pointed to China. China is run by the Communist Party of China. It bills itself as communist. China is not a communist country. Would you say China is a communist country?
It's a mixed country. It has some elements of communism, but it's also got a lot of capitalism going on.
Yeah, right? Not to mention it's authoritative. So I wonder if it's an authoritarian, and up to what scale. That's the other thing, because it's not like in China you can say what you want. Is that a good thing? Is that Star Trek enough? But then again, I don't know how this connects to the Islamic situation that we were discussing. That was a little strange, because I'm not sure how that connected to this. Which section are we in? Yeah, we're in this section here. Okay. There is something I wanted to see. I want to see the part about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So far, they have freaking annihilated him. But let me see the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I'm really curious about this section, and then we move to the next topic. Let's go.
One of the things that I found shocking with the assassination of Charlie Kirk is obviously the incident itself, but it's also the reaction and the rhetoric that went around it. The people on the left who were celebrating it, which to me is, and to most right-thinking people, is absolutely abhorrent.
And centrists. And in fact, there are some people on the left that found that abhorrent and became centrists.
And also the reaction on the left, and there were some people, particularly large influencers, whose what they said was unforgivable.
Yep.
Where did you stand on it, and what were your opinions on the whole incident?
I mean, I was shocked. It was horrifying, but mainly
You weren't shocked. That was Kaya. You weren't shocked.
horrifying because like it's impossible for me not to have a personal stake in this, because I was about to debate Charlie in 2 weeks, like 2 weeks prior to his assassination, or 2 weeks after his assassination. We were supposed to be debating at Dartmouth College, and this was a person that I had basically developed a political career in competition with, if that makes sense. Like I was on the left side, he was on the right side. We debated plenty of times. We debated at Politicon. We were very familiar with one another, and seeing that the number one fear that every person that does what I do become reality in real time was shocking. It was devastating.
Isn't it interesting that he makes it about himself, though? Like a psychological level, I mean.
As far as my opinions on it, I mean, I had the misfortune of seeing it in real time happen as I was like trying.
I had the misfortune of seeing it. Man, is it so difficult to not make it about yourself and just say it was atrocious, it was wrong, it should never have happened, and regardless of our disagreements, I feel for him and his family and children. Why is it so difficult? I'll tell you why. Because his audience wouldn't forgive him. That's what happens when you cultivate an extremist audience. They will, any streamer who cultivates a extremely toxic audience will risk self-devouring if they're not careful what they say. In theory, when you're free, for a free mind, it's easy to say it was atrocious. It was an awful thing. I feel so bad, both for him having to die so young and for his family, his children. It's awful. We should never push for this kind of political violence. That's what a decent individual says, center, right, or left. He doesn't say it because, do remember, he once read capitalist blood on the streets. So of course he's not going to say that.
To figure out what had taken place, and we were one of the first media outlets that actually broke the story.
Me.
And my first thought was that this is going to lead to even more violence in the form of revenge, decentralized violence, and also that this is going to lead to state repression as well.
Okay, so what do you think of, what are your thoughts on Charlie Kirk getting assassinated? Trump is my thoughts. So the state is going to repress. Well, repress what, though? Because, I mean, shouldn't you be happy if, you know, the government starts making sure that people don't do what you do, incitement to violence, and try to actually enforce the First Amendment for once when it comes to this? Maybe even social media platforms, maybe starting to do a little pressure on Twitch, letting you do whatever you want. And also, what, revenge? Okay, well, did it happen? No. As far as I know, it didn't happen. I saw a lot of, again, when I say leftists, people tell me it's incorrect. Let's say left-wingers, let's say progressives, whatever you want. I've seen a lot of people on the left, being not everyone, but I've seen a lot of people on the left celebrating it. Just like the same thing they did when Trump got almost assassinated, and they said, next time, don't miss. So I've seen a lot of that. I've seen a lot of people pushing for more violence towards his children and wife. What I did not see is left-wing content creators and commentators getting shot. And Destiny did go live, meaning on campus. I didn't see him get shot. I don't want to see him get shot, by the way. I don't want to see Hasan Piker getting shot. I don't want any revenge coming from the right. But that's what he's afraid of, not the people who are actually saying, take out his bigoted children. He doesn't say anything about that, does he?
In an effort to stamp out any kind of political discontent or any kind of political dissent, which hasn't fully come to fruition yet, thankfully, but the administration certainly tried to use this as an opportunity to build new guidelines around surveillance and build new surveillance targets in general. The Trump administration has this, they released a memorandum, national security memorandum, that declared the intelligence communities to shift their priorities and attention of surveillance to Antifa, which they had previously declared a domestic terrorist organization, which is not a designation that exists in the United States of America because it is at direct odds with the First Amendment.
So let me get this straight. You are focusing on a technicality Which, fine, I mean, be that as it may, if he's correct, then great, that the nomenclature might be wrong. I'm happy to concede that point. If he does have a point, I'll have to double check. I don't believe anything he says. With that being said, Antifa did attempt at the life of, like, there was the guy that shot the Antifa, the van. He failed, and I ended up killing some innocent immigrants, but he tried. So I think it's good that the government is having a look at what Antifa is doing. But to him, it's not good, even though Antifa, they prevented a bombing, guys. For him, that's bad. That's on. By the way, what he's criticizing now, the so-called police state, is exactly how China is. For some reasons, though. He loves it when it's there. He loves it. It's like fried rice and security cameras, ladies and gentlemen.
This is the reason why the KKK is not considered a domestic terror organization. This is the reason why the Proud Boys and Atomwaffen, which is like a neo-Nazi formation that tries to recruit from the military, none of these guys none of these organizations, even if you would normally consider them domestic terror organizations, are actually considered that. So it was a severe violation of the First Amendment, and then the follow-up to the surveillance targets and the surveillance priorities made me even more fearful about where this administration was going, where they declared any sort of anti-Christian, anti-capitalist, anti-American sentiment to be an indication of someone being an extremist, violent terrorist potentially. But then
potentially, yes, absolutely. You shot Christian children, you absolute imbecile. You meaning the extremists, since I do consider him an extremist as well. I'd say, yeah, good, keep an eye on them. We're not saying what Pam Bondi said, completely out of her mind, if I'm going to have to now complain about a Republican. And she was like, oh, if you mock Charlie Kirk, we're going to come and arrest you. No. First Amendment. But anything that is violent or potentially, but if people start saying that they want the Christian bigoted children, it's better if they don't grow up into adults, yeah, we should keep an eye on them. Absolutely, we should keep an eye on them. 100%. Literally. Orange man bad, it cannot be your defense strategy against any argumentation. It's an excuse, it's a justification, exactly. Because he doesn't care about Christian children getting shot. That's the reality.
On top of that, there was even more vague things that they brought up. Like, I think it was like American, being critical of the American moral family unit or something like that. Basically, it was just what the Republicans consider what the entirety of the liberal and all the way to, extreme leftists or whatever think about the Republicans was now up for grabs in terms of priority targets for the surveillance apparatus.
For the surveillance apparatus, once again, copy-paste what he said, place it in China, he's gonna love it. That's exactly, you think in China you can be, never mind the nuclear family, just go into Tiananmen, 在北京, in the city of Beijing, and say that you complain and disagree with Mao and their position and communism and the state. Good luck with that.
And like I said, we don't know where this is going to go for the time being. It is directly at odds with the First Amendment, but there have been some instances where people have been indicted. Kat Abu Ghazaleh, like I said, who's running for office, is like one of the first high-profile politicians that have been targeted in this way. And I worry that once free speech goes away and once due process goes away in this country, we are full tilt fascist.
So, of course, it's complete nonsense, but I do agree that First Amendment and free speech are the most important thing. And so at least, even though we disagree on the actual fleshing out of what he's saying, First Amendment should never go. But the thing is that if we applied First Amendment and actually understood what protected speech is, a lot of the stuff he says. So the reality is that people like him understand First Amendment in a tribalistic way, and that's unconstitutional. First Amendment is not our speech is protected because we think that our politics are better, but then the split second someone uses a nasty word on the right wing, hate speech, and not just the right wing, the center as well. He's not against free speech. It depends on the topic. His positions shift depending on whether or not whatever point he's going to make is going to be advantageous to his overall goal within any given conversation. This is how he works. He shifts like this. his ideas shift. Like one day, now he said freedom of speech, very important. Then when he's having a conversation with someone who's maybe the idea of the concept, the non-existent, legally speaking concept of hate speech, if he's gonna need it, then he's gonna never go to hell with freedom, with free speech. We need to change the constitution. That's what's gonna happen.
I think that's a very valid point. My concern is as well, and it's the rhetoric that is getting ratcheted up on both sides, both on the right, but both on the left. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. In my own country, we have Zara Sultana, who's a very prominent left-wing politician. She said the words, we need to fight the fascists in Parliament. Like, okay. We need to fight them in the ballot box, and we need to fight them in the streets.
And of course he said love them, because he has a thing with the streets. Both him and Destiny, that's one thing. I know they hate each other, but that's one thing they have in common. The omniliberal and the champagne socialist, yeah? They love the freaking streets when it comes to violence against those who disagree with them. So of course he's going to love her.
Now the problem is, if you ask most people what fascism is, I don't think they would be able to give you a clear or coherent explanation or an analysis of the political ideology.
Well, let's be honest. By fascist, she means people like Reform who are not fascist. They are a centre-right party. They're not fascist.
So
I don't know if I'd agree with that.
Right, but the point.
Well, hold on a second. You think Reform Party is?
I think
fascist?
Reform Party, as it stands currently, is a nascent fascist parliamentary group that hasn't.
But he just complained about the police state that thinks, oh, if you say something, we're going to consider you a terrorist, even though you're not yet there, simply on the basis of, well, this could be dangerous. And now he's doing the same thing in reverse. Anyways, you know what? I think I've listened enough to Hasan Piker. We're going to move to the next, but I'm going to say this was fascinating. I liked it. It's Triggernometry. I'm going to subscribe to them. I'm going to give them a like, and I'm going to go check their content also, because they're pushing Brad, and I think Brad is great.